They laughed. Not all at once. It was more like a wave, a low ripple across the long mahogany table, just loud enough to sting. A smirk here, a chuckle there, a scoff dressed up as a cough from the corner. "I just think," Janelle began again, slower this time, "after 9 years of double shifts covering 3 departments and carrying patient overflow during the pandemic, 2 weeks to reset my mind shouldn't be a punchline." No one met her eyes, not even Dr. Franklin, the one who used to pull her aside to say how grateful he was for her leadership. Not even Diane, who still sends her Christmas cards with notes thanking her for training her niece. Instead, it was Marcus Bellamy, chief of surgery and king of smug little dismissals, who broke the silence. "Are you sure it's not burnout?" he said, drawing out the word like it was a dirty rumor. "Or maybe just, what's the phrase, imposter syndrome?" He smiled too wide, the kind of smile that said, "We've already decided what you are." Janelle's back stiffened, but her face didn't flinch, not even when the room gently erupted in polite laughter, like her sanity was up for debate. "Anyway," he continued, tapping his iPad, "you've got a full patient load through the end of the quarter, and the board's concerned about continuity. Maybe next year." Next year, like she was asking for a cruise. She knew every patient's middle name, had written half the clinic's protocols from scratch. It was her vision that turned a failing urgent care into one of the best-regarded wellness centers in the state. But now she was too much, too visible, too driven, too strong for softness, and too black for rest. As the meeting ended and chairs scraped back and heels clicked toward catered finger sandwiches, Janelle stayed seated, one breath, then another. She glanced at the framed photo of the founders on the wall, all 6 of them, frozen in time, smiling in suits that had never known sweat. She whispered almost to herself, "You think I'm asking permission?" The receptionist barely glanced up as she passed. That stung more than it should have. 2 years ago, when Denise's daughter had her seizure in the waiting room and the on-call pediatrician froze, it was Janelle who rushed in, scooped the child up, and stabilized her. No one had called her heroic then, just reliable, dependable, the one who always knew what to do. But even a foundation cracks given enough pressure. By the time Janelle reached her car, her hands had stopped shaking. Not from rage. That part had long cooled into something colder, denser, a thing with weight. She pulled out her phone. Not her clinic line, not her hospital-issued device, her other phone. The one she used for LLC paperwork, property deeds, the silent moves they never asked about because they assumed her life ended at her scrubs. She dialed. 3 rings, then a voice. "You ready?" "I'm done asking," Janelle said. "Go ahead and trigger the clause." "Got it," said the voice. "We'll finalize it by the end of the week. You're still holding 49%. "For now," she said, staring up at the clinic windows. "But I want full control. I'm not here to teach them lessons. I'm here to change the locks." 3 days passed. One night, she drove 92 minutes to a law office in a different city, signed papers under dim lights, reviewed buyout terms line by line with the firm she'd secretly retained years ago, just in case. Another evening, she had tea with a retired board member no one had seen since 2016. They spoke softly, cordially, but when she left, she took a signed proxy vote with her. On Thursday, Marcus dropped a file on her desk. No greeting, no eye contact, just papers slapped down like she was a secretary. "Need that reviewed by lunch," he muttered. She didn't look up. "Marcus," she said calmly, flipping the first page, "do you know what Clause 17.3 of the founding charter states?" He blinked. "What?" "The clause about partner shares being transferable upon majority vote, and the silent partner option being exercisable in times of leadership conflict." He stared. Janelle smiled, a soft, knowing thing. "Never mind," she said. "You'll find out tomorrow." And she meant it. Because tomorrow at exactly 9 a.m., they'd all walk into that same boardroom, the one with the mahogany table and the fake kindness and the jokes wrapped in microaggressions, and discover that the woman they laughed at, she owns them now. The next morning, the clinic felt nervous. Not loud nervous, quiet nervous, the kind where everyone's too polite, too chipper, like they can feel a storm coming but can't name it. Janelle walked through the double doors wearing all white. Not a lab coat, a suit, crisp, structured, pure elegance with no apology. Her locks were pulled into a low bun, earrings subtle but sharp. No stethoscope today, just presence, just purpose. The receptionist, the same one who hadn't looked up before, stood when she saw her. "Dr. Rhodes, Ms. Rhodes, good morning." Janelle nodded. "Morning, Denise. You can relax. This'll only take a few minutes." She didn't wait for a response. She kept walking, past admin, past the break room where someone paused mid-sip from their coffee, past exam room 3, where one of the nurses froze like she'd seen a ghost in heels. By the time she reached the conference room, most of the board was already seated. Marcus, of course, had his feet up on a chair. "Oh, look," he muttered under his breath. "Someone's playing executive today." Janelle placed a folder in front of each seat. No words, just calm. Diane shifted in her seat. "Dr. Rhodes, we didn't schedule any—" "This isn't a staff meeting," Janelle said, her voice steady. "This is a shareholders' session as outlined in the charter." Marcus rolled his eyes. "We really don't have time for—" "Then I'll be brief," she said. "As of this morning, per clause 17.3 of the founding agreement and the proxy acquisition ratified last week, I now hold 82% ownership of Rhodes Wellness Group." Silence. She let it hang, watched it stretch across the table like fog settling in. "I've acquired the silent shares, the dormant partners, the proxy votes, everything your egos never thought I'd touch." Marcus stood abruptly, knocking over his water. That's not possible. We had an agreement. The founders, Janelle said coolly, named me co-founder when I was still in residency. You didn't read the paperwork because you assumed I was decoration." Diane looked pale. She flipped through the folder. This can't be right." "It is." Another beat of silence. Then Janelle stepped forward, pulled out the chair at the head of the table, sat down. "I will no longer be working shifts. I will appoint a new medical director, and I will be reviewing all employment contracts, starting with the ones that have allowed a culture of hostility, exclusion and misogynoir to thrive under my name." Marcus's voice cracked. "You're making a mistake." Janelle didn't even blink. "You made the mistake," she said. "You thought the strong black woman never breaks, but you forgot. We build." She stood again, meeting over. Outside, whispers were already traveling down the hallway. Nurses texting under desks, admins pretending not to stare. Word moves fast when power shifts hands. Janelle didn't rush. She stopped at the front desk, looked Denise in the eyes. "Get yourself some lunch today, real lunch. Take a full hour. No one's docking your pay under my watch." Then she walked out the front doors of the clinic, her clinic, as the morning sun broke. The clinic was quiet that afternoon. Too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that brings peace, the kind that makes people whisper your name like it might summon something they're not ready for. By 3 p.m., the news had spread from the admin team to radiology, then from radiology to urgent care, then from urgent care to group chat. Janelle Rhodes owns the clinic. Like, owns it. Marcus is on thin ice. They say she bought out the board. Nah, FR. She's the board now. Nobody said it out loud in front of her, but you could feel the shift in posture, the way people stood straighter when she passed, the sudden eye contact, the overdue respect. In the break room, nurses who used to tiptoe around Marcus suddenly laughed a little louder. In scheduling, the younger staff wore their natural curls unapologetically for the first time in months. Even Denise at the front started using her full voice when she answered the phones. Change had a sound, and it was starting to play. That night, Janelle stayed late. Not out of obligation, not anymore. She stayed because she finally could. Because now she wasn't doing overtime to prove she belonged. She was building something in her name. In her new office, not a converted supply closet anymore, but the one with windows, sunlight, and dignity, she spread out the new org chart. Department heads, pay equity adjustments, hiring freezes lifted in mental health, HR reporting structures rewritten with accountability. She didn't need revenge, she needed results, but still, she smiled when she saw the meeting notice that had just been auto-sent. Memo mandatory performance review, executive staff sender, owner executive director Dr. Janelle Rhodes, time 9 a.m. Friday, location conf room A. At 9:02 the next morning, Marcus walked in. Red tie, jaw tight, chest puffed like he still owned something other than denial. He barely sat before speaking. "Look, I know things got heated, but I think we can find a way to—" Janelle raised a hand. He stopped mid-sentence. "This isn't a debate, Marcus," she said. "It's a review." She turned to a printed list. Calm, measured, unbothered. "You've had 5 HR complaints in the last 9 months. 4 women, 3 black. 1 anonymous report of retaliatory scheduling after medical leave. Does that sound like leadership to you?" He blinked. "Those are exaggerations, misunderstandings. You know how emotional people get." She looked up, slowly. "Finish that sentence." Silence. "You weaponized charm, favoritism, and plausible deniability. And when that didn't work, you hid behind seniority and gender, but not anymore." Marcus stood, hands on hips. "So what? I'm just supposed to walk out of here." Janelle stood too, not rushed, not aggressive, just tall in her truth. "You're welcome to walk, or I can have security escort you. Either way, you won't be back on Monday." He stared at her, eyes flickering, disbelief, then panic, then a flash of something sour. "You really think people will follow you?" he spat. "They're just scared now. That'll fade." Janelle walked to the door, opened it. Outside, a hallway full of staff had paused, not eavesdropping, not hiding, just waiting. Quiet, steady, present. Some nodded at her, some didn't, but none of them looked at Marcus. She turned back to him. "No," she said softly. "They're not scared. They're watching. And for the first time, they see who's really in charge." The door clicked shut behind Marcus, and with it years of held breath seemed to exhale from the walls themselves. It wasn't celebration yet, not clapping or streamers or instant transformation, just quiet acknowledgement, a small revolution in stillness. The kind black women know too well, when the burden finally shifts and no one says thank you, but you feel the weight come off anyway. Janelle stood in the doorway for a moment, not to gloat, to witness. Across the hall, Clara from Pediatrics gave her a silent nod. Real, respectful. Maya from Billing, who hadn't worn lipstick since her promotion was passed over, gave a slow, crooked smile. Janelle nodded back. She didn't need a standing ovation. She needed sustainability, a system that didn't collapse when she sat down. That afternoon, she called an all-staff meeting. Not in the boardroom. She was done with that room's energy. She booked the common space instead, cleared the chairs into a wide circle. No podium, no mic, just people. They trickled in slowly. Whispers swirled. What's she gonna say? Is it bad news? Did she fire Marcus for real? Janelle stood in the center of the circle, calm, unfolded, fully herself. "I won't keep you all long," she began, "but I owe you clarity, and more than that, a choice." The room fell still. "For years, this clinic survived off your labor and my silence. You were underpaid, undervalued, overworked, while I wore strength like armor and made myself small to keep the peace." She let that sit, watched it land. No more. A murmur of agreement swept the circle. "I've initiated a full audit of salaries and promotions. We're implementing a grievance process that actually works, and mental health support will now be covered, not as a perk, but as a right." A nurse in the back gasped softly. Someone whispered, "Finally." Janelle looked around. "And if that sounds like too much for some of you, if transparency and accountability make you uncomfortable." She paused, not angry, just resolute. "The door's still open, but it swings both ways." Silence. Then Maya spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "What if we want to stay?" Janelle smiled. Not wide, not performative, just deep. "Then we build, together, from the inside out." Later that evening, after everyone had gone home, Janelle walked the halls alone. She passed the break room, where someone had left a sticky note on the fridge that read, "Thank you for not breaking, even when they tried to bend you backward." She didn't know who wrote it. She didn't need to. She stepped outside into the dusk, letting the spring air settle on her shoulders. Finally, she wasn't surviving inside a system. She was the system, and she was just getting started. The new nameplate was subtle. Black brushed metal, white lettering, clean, no flourish. Dr. Janelle Rhodes, MD. Founder and Executive Director. It didn't scream. It didn't need to. People paused when they passed it, like it had weight, like it finally confirmed something they had felt for years but hadn't dared say aloud. She didn't just work here anymore. She ran it. And they knew now. She always had. The week after Marcus left, the energy in the building shifted like a deep muscle stretch. Appointments ran smoother, not perfect but lighter. Staff meetings started ending on time. People showed up not just out of duty, but out of pride. Because something was being restored. It wasn't about power, it was about alignment. It was about walking into a place and knowing it wouldn't drain your spirit just to clock in. Janelle didn't hover. She let people breathe. She didn't do a victory lap. She sent out surveys, quietly met with each department, asked what they needed and actually listened. And when Jasmine from front desk whispered, "I've been scared to report stuff," Janelle didn't write it down and move on. She closed the door, pulled up a chair, and said, "Tell me everything." By the end of that month, 6 policies had been rewritten. 1 toxic supervisor resigned with no farewell lunch, and 3 black women, who'd been skipped over twice for promotion, were now department leads. The changes weren't loud, they were steady, intentional, a real kind of care, backed by structure, no more duct tape and hope, just systems that worked, for everyone. Then one afternoon it came full circle. A woman walked into the clinic in tears. No ID, no insurance card, no appointment. She'd just left an abusive relationship. She was shaking, holding her side, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know where else to go." The front desk called Janelle directly. 10 minutes later, the woman was wrapped in a warm blanket, tucked into an exam room, getting the care she needed. No questions asked, no bills waived like threats, no judgment, just dignity. And as Janelle stood outside the exam room, watching her team move like clockwork, the nurse checking vitals, the counselor quietly arriving from next door, the social worker already on a call with housing, she felt it. Not pride, not relief. Alignment. The building finally matched the heart that built it. And no one could take that from her now. The old office still smelled like cologne and ego. Even after the deep cleaning crew came through, even after she had the carpet replaced and the bookshelves cleared, there was something stale about the air, like entitlement had left a scent. But Janelle kept the room. Not for status, for proof. The chair that Marcus used to spin in mid-meeting, gone. The fake gold plaques about leadership excellence, gone. In their place, a bookshelf of black women scholars and medical pioneers. A framed quote from her grandmother that simply read, "You don't have to raise your voice when your work already speaks." And in the center of the desk, not hidden in a drawer, a photo of her mother, nurse, breadwinner, single parent. On Monday morning, a package arrived. No return address, just a legal-sized envelope tucked inside, along with a cheap pen and a note written in tight, blocky letters. "Thought I deserved a second chance. Let me know if we can talk." Monsieur Janelle read it once, then again, then dropped it into the shredder without a sound. Forgiveness didn't mean reinstatement. Grace didn't mean she owed you a seat. She had other things to do. That afternoon she met with a local community college about a mentorship pipeline. "You want us to train medical assistants here?" the director asked, confused. "On site?" "Yes," Janelle said. "Our clinic, our community, real training, real futures." She paused, then added, "No prerequisites. We'll teach from scratch. Especially the ones they call too rough around the edges. Those are the ones I want." Because Janelle remembered what it was like to be told she was too intense, too ambitious, that she should smile more if she wanted to get ahead. She wanted the next girl to hear something different. Later that week, a young intern knocked on her office door. Dr. Rhodes," she said, shy. Do you have a minute?" Janelle looked up. "Always." The girl stepped in, clutching her notebook like a lifeline. I wanted to say, I didn't think people like you ran clinics like this." Janelle raised an eyebrow. "People like me." The girl flushed. "No, I mean, not that you're not amazing, just—" Janelle held up a hand, then softened. "I know what you meant." The girl nodded, then asked, "How did you get here?" Janelle smiled, leaned back in her chair. "Quietly, carefully, and while they were underestimating me, I was reading every page they skipped." Outside her window, the late afternoon sun cast golden shadows across the lot. The same clinic that once tried to drain her dry now stood tall under her name. And every time she saw a patient laugh in the lobby or a staff member breathe easier, she knew the corner office, it was never really theirs. They were just borrowing space. She was always meant to build the whole floor. The ribbon-cutting ceremony wasn't flashy. No media, no politicians, no oversized checks. Just folding chairs, a mic borrowed from a local church, and 32 people from the community who had once walked through her doors needing more than medicine. They were all here. The mother who got prenatal care when no one else would take her insurance. The teenager Janelle mentored through grief and graduation. The elder who brought in tamales every Thursday because y'all don't feed your spirits enough. And right in the front row sat Denise, smiling like a proud auntie. Next to her was Maya, now head of finance. Next to her, Jasmine, freshly promoted to clinic coordinator. They didn't stand for her when she took the mic. They didn't have to. They'd been standing with her all along. Janelle cleared her throat, held the mic low. "I remember the day I asked for a break." A murmur rippled through the crowd, the ones who knew, the ones who had been watching since before it was safe to clap. "They laughed," she said, with a soft nod. "Called it burnout. Said maybe I was just overwhelmed." She let the silence hold. "And they were right," she said, smiling. "I was overwhelmed, overworked, over-explained, and understood by no one." A few amens, a couple Mm-hms. But what they didn't see was the plan I'd already started, the ownership I already held, the community I already claimed. They mistook silence for weakness. They mistook my rest for retreat. She looked out over the crowd. They didn't understand that we don't burn out, we rise. Applause, not loud, not performative, real. And now, she said, this clinic is not just a business, it's a shelter, a system, a second chance, for anyone who was ever told they were too poor, too loud, too brown, too broken, too black, to deserve good care and real dignity. Tears now, not hers, others. A nurse wiping her eyes, a patient pressing her hands together in silent gratitude. Welcome, Janelle said, to our clinic. Later that night, long after the chairs were folded and the cake was boxed up, Janelle sat alone in her office. No patients, no noise, just quiet. She opened her bottom drawer. Inside, the first rejection letter she ever got from med school. The note Marcus once scribbled on her case file, too assertive in meetings. The original deed to the clinic, her name handwritten in ink beside the words silent partner. She didn't frame them. She didn't need to. Some victories don't require display. They just need to be felt. In the way you walk, in the way you're greeted, in the way no one dares doubt your place anymore. She leaned back in her chair, turned off the desk lamp and whispered, I took the break. Then I took the building. Now I'm taking my time.